Hello and welcome to the Week 8 video. I'd like to share a little bit of information to help you understand a little bit more about the article called Touch Typing in the Elementary Classroom, Current Beliefs and Practices. This particular article is currently in review for publication. It has been submitted to the Journal of Research on Technology and Education, and it was co-authored by myself and Monique Preciado. Monique is a graduate of our EdTech Master's program, actually, and she is currently enrolled in the doctoral program in educational leadership here at CSU Stanislaus. She's an instructional coach in the Empire School District and a former elementary teacher in that district as well. Since this particular study is one that I was more directly involved in, I thought I would share with you a little bit about the reasons behind the study, specifically why it was conducted. The primary reason is that the Common Core state standards have a very high level of writing that is evident throughout all of the English language arts and mathematics standards. So there's definitely a very high expectation for student writing. Specifically, it mentions in the standards that students need to be able to write a full page in one sitting by the end of grade 4, 2 pages by the end of grade 5, and 3 pages by the end of grade 6. So in order for that to happen, it's really necessary, in my opinion, for students to be able to use the technology tools efficiently, which includes a word processor. And part of using a processor efficiently is the ability to touch type. So research about the use of word processors and keyboarding to some degree, but not nearly as much, was really not conducted in the recent past. It was a lot more evident in the mid-80s and early 90s when computers were definitely not nearly as prevalent in schools as they are today. And back during that era, the kinds of studies that were conducted were primarily studies that looked at whether the quality of writing was better when students were using a word processor as opposed to writing by hand. Now that we have better access to technology, even though it's still not one-to-one in most elementary schools, the need to look at, is a word processor better than writing by hand, I don't think is as important, but I do think that because of the prevalence of technology and the word processors as embedded throughout the standards, it's really important to look at what's happening, what do teachers believe, what contributes to practices. And so that's kind of the impetus behind the study in general. We really wanted to examine what teachers were doing and what they believed about why they did or did not have students use some kind of touch typing curriculum to help students develop skills at the elementary level. On page 2 in the study, when you get to that, it has a little bit of statistical information that I want to be sure that you understand it. It mentions a couple of R values. So R is a measure of relationships, and it actually tells us about both the strength and the direction of the relationship between two variables. In this case, the authors were looking at speed of handwriting and quality of the written document. The R value is 0.44, which is a moderate value. So this suggests that it is a positive relationship, meaning that as the speed of handwriting increases, so does the quality of the document, but it's not a really, really strong relationship. In addition, the relationship between speed of handwriting and length of the document was zero point 0.3, which is also positive and also moderate. So in the same study, the authors found that the R value was 0.54 when they looked at the speed of typing and quality of the document, and 0.55 for the speed of typing and length of the document. So it's clear that based on these results that there is a relationship, at least one worth noting, that would indicate that as people become more proficient at getting their thoughts on paper, whether it's via handwriting or via typing, that the quality of their document becomes better. And then the sentence after that describes phase 2 of the study, and in there it talks about that written work was 1.3 SD. That stands for standard deviations. Their work was 1.3 standard deviations better than that of students in the control group. So the students who participated in a typing curriculum to gain those skills had work that was this is a very high value. 1.3 standard deviations is a very, very strong effect size or magnitude. So when we get standard deviations that are above about 0.5, we're looking at something that is definitely worth noting. And then the other thing that I wanted to draw your attention to, it talks about another study where it says handwriting speed explained only about 15% of keyboarding speed. That means that when we look at all of the different variables that contribute to keyboarding speed, a person's ability to handwrite quickly doesn't explain very much of it. So that indicates that people who are not necessarily very fast when it comes to writing by hand have the potential to write much more quickly when they enter text via keyboarding. The theoretical foundation of the study is what frames the entire inquiry. And there's really one main theory that everything is really based upon, and that's the cognitive load theory. That particular theory suggests that your brain, anybody's brain, has a limited capacity at any given time to actually be able to process information, and more specifically to move information from short-term memory into long-term memory. The theory has been around for a long time and is not specific to writing by any means, but in the early part of this particular millennium, Berninger et al. Kind of took that theory and developed a model that applies directly to writing. And what Berninger and his colleagues determined is that your working memory is really what's inside this triangle. And so it is a limited amount. You can't expand it. You have what you have, and that's it. And that working memory then is going to be tapped into by the actual process of transcription, which means how do you get the text onto whatever it is you're writing in, whether it's paper or whether it's a word process document or whatever it happens to be. So that transcription includes finding the letters if you're working with a keyboard, it includes spelling, and the physical process of entering text. And then executive functions, which include the organization, thinking about genre, thinking about voice, all of those kinds of things that you have to think about when you're writing content. And then that together produces the text, so the words, the sentences, the way everything is framed. So what their model suggests is that if you have to spend a lot of effort trying to find keys on a keyboard, then your brain is not able to allocate as many resources to the other processes that contribute to a quality written document. So if people are able to efficiently enter text into a keyboard, then they can spend more of their cognitive resources on other parts of the writing task, which should theoretically contribute to a better document. On page 9 in the manuscript, it uses the phrase statistically significant differences, and without going into too much detail on what that means, if something is statistically significant or just significant, which means the same thing, then that means that what was found is not just likely to be found in the sample, but rather that it could be generalized to people who are similar to those in the sample, and it's not just based on chance. It's likely to be based on real things in the population that are really there. So contingency tables are a specific statistical analysis that can be run in this particular case based on the type of data that were in the survey to be able to determine if results were statistically significant. And then again, there's another significant finding, so not just based on chance, but based on what we would truly expect to find in the population to which we would generalize. And then significant, a no significant impact means that there wasn't enough evidence within the sample to be able to determine that the percent of time students wrote drafts by hand prior to word processing was impacted by the amount of technology that was available in the school. So the exercise that I would like to have you do this week is related to the research application activities that you will complete later in the semester. If you recall, there are 2 such activities that you chose 2 of the 3 options, and you determined which option you are going to submit on April 4th and which one you're going to submit in May. In both of those options, you are going to be summarizing 4 studies that you select that are based upon the topic that you choose. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of experience with assistance from another class member of producing a well-written study summary. The summary that you write has to be in your own words, so you can't just go in and copy and paste phrases from different parts of the article. You really need to read the entire article, kind of get the gist or main understanding of the whole thing, and then develop your summary from that. Generally, when you're thinking about summarizing somebody's study, you need to be cognizant of the fact that a person could go back and read the entire study if he or she wanted a lot of details about it. So when you're summarizing, you really need to think about what is most important to convey in writing, and you're going to keep that to about 2 paragraphs. If you're writing more than that, it's too much. And the paragraphs shouldn't be unreasonably long paragraphs. They should be kind of normal sized paragraphs. But you really do need to discern what is important to include versus what is maybe a lesser detail that you don't need to share with the reader. So when you're writing your summary, you need to include information about the purpose of the study, who was in the sample and how they were selected, how are the data collected and any particular instruments that might have been used to collect the data, and then what are the main results and implications of the study. So those are the things that I'm expecting that you and your partner are going to produce in the summary of this particular study this week. So if you have questions, please refer to the task sheet because it does provide a lot of detailed information about the specific assignment. And if you have additional questions about writing the summary, then let me know. That's it.